And let's get ready to grumble. Maybe not. Maybe we'll see. Anyway, this is Bill Miksch. I am president of WDMA Financial Group, and we are live at Round Lake Heights Studios in Round Lake Heights, Illinois, at 101.5 FM, WLCB, Slades Corner, Wisconsin. This is your Insurance Corner, and for the next hour, Sean Hauser and I are going to take you on an excursion where we will entertain you. We will make you laugh, I hope. We will certainly make you think and make you ponder about the stuff that we're going to talk about today, because the things we're going to talk about, every single listener in the United States of America who qualifies for Medicare needs to listen to this. These episodes on the Medicare series that we're running right now. I am actually through page 30 out of the 130-page booklet called Medicare and You. And we are going to continue our discussion with what's covered and some of the stuff that we've talked about before, but I think it's worth going into the IRMMA tax again and those kind of things. Mostly because I've had some listeners get surprised who have moved into Medicare, and then, you know, we always tell them, got to check your taxes from 2 years ago, because that's the deal. And let's just say the superlatives were expected. So, without further ado, the man, the legend, the way of life, the person who is hidden in the bunkers somewhere deep in the bowels of Columbus, Ohio, a Cincinnati fan, formerly of Chicago, Sean Hauser.
Hey, Bill, how you doing? It seems like my location changes every week.
Well, that's because you keep moving around.
That's true. Me and Salman Rushdie.
Yeah, right. He appeared on 60 Minutes a couple weeks ago, I think.
Did he really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep. Yeah. So he actually looked, for his age, he looked pretty good, and he was very lucid.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want him as president at his youthful age of 80-something years old, but I digress. So what's happening, Sean? How are you?
I'm doing well, Bill. Can't complain. It was a good weekend, and back in the trenches, working for the man.
Yeah, the man who provides you a paycheck and benefits and a 401k so that sometime in your future you can, quote, comfortably retire. We'll see how that goes. The way things are heading right now, we'll see if we can all make it to 75 before we can, quote, retire. We'll see. So just you and I didn't talk after the show was over. Did the phone line just cut out last week, Sean? Because I had no idea what happened.
Yeah, I could hear you. You were on the air, but for some reason I couldn't connect, so I let you finish strong, and off we went. So.
Yeah, I know Chris, our engineer, who's also one of the station managers here, texted me because I was about ready to sign off at 7:45 or 7:50, whenever that happened. And then Chris texted me and he said, no, you're still going. You're still live. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it seemed to be that the bunker walls maybe have isolated my signal and I couldn't get through. So glad you were there to fly the console.
Yeah. And by the way, that coffee maker that I brought in, stellar. In 3 seconds, Sean, we have a hot cup of coffee. I have brought in official cups. There's no name on them, so if you wanted to ever put WLCB on these 2 cups that I brought in, knock yourself out. They keep the coffee warm, and at least for the first half hour of the show, I can have a nice warm cup of coffee, and I don't have to wait till a month of Sundays for the damn thing to turn on. So
stay highly caffeinated. I gotcha.
Yeah, well, you got to do that. Either that or it's some other kind of psychedelic drug to keep me going here.
Gotcha.
Just a couple things, footnotes here. Sally and I made our first leg, Sean, of the Major League Baseball tour this past weekend. We went to St. Louis, and watched the St. Louis Cardinals get the snot knocked out of them by the Milwaukee Brewers. St. Louis is not good. Just to give a flavor, their starting pitcher had an ERA of 5.08. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this is not going to go well. The truth of the matter was, though, for at least one half of an inning, they were winning 4-3, and then the wheels fell off. But it was a good trip. We not only did that, but then we decided to make some excursions. So we went to go see the Clydesdales, which are just down the street from the stadium. We could have done a Budweiser tour of the plant, or we did the Clydesdales. We chose the Clydesdales because I was kind of more interested in getting a history lesson of where they came from. And these horses, Sean, are massive.
They're massive.
Oh
aren't
my
they?
gosh! Oh, have you seen them before up close and personal?
Yeah, we did probably that same tour to go see the horses.
Yeah,
and they're amazing.
They're huge. They seem to be gentle. These animals are cared for probably better than some children are cared for. And certainly some adults. They're bathed once a week. They travel a lot. They're on the road somewhere from 6 to 9 months out of every year. But that was good. And the history lesson was interesting. A couple of tidbits. Most of these horses are geldings, and they've all been neutered. So one of the questions that came up was, well, how do you breed more if you're neutering these guys? And they actually bring them in from Scotland, which is where they're from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's got to cost a pretty penny. The harnesses, Sean, are handmade somewhere in the States. I can't remember where they said, but somewhere in the States. Each one of those harnesses weigh 140 pounds and are $250,000 each.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the last little tidbit was one horse in a day can eat, and I may be getting my math screwed up here, 50 pounds of hay, 30 pounds of oats, and 30 gallons of water every day. So if you're thinking about buying one of these, you better have a deep pocket. But that was fun, and then we've got some family down there, so we went to go see her uncle and aunt, who we've not seen for a long time, and it just by happenstance, her uncle, who is a pastor in the Missouri Synod, married us 33 years ago. So my 33-year anniversary is coming up May 18th. Our next stop is Minnesota, and I should have an idea of what game we're going to and what we're going to do probably Memorial Day weekend. So we'll see how that goes. And we've already picked a game for the White Sox Cubs. That's our White Sox trip sometime in August, I think. The hard part's going to be Detroit, Cleveland, and Toronto, and maybe Pittsburgh. I think we'll leave Cincinnati for the East Coast trip, so that on the way back we go through Florida and then hit Atlanta and then hit Cincinnati. So if we do the East Coast trip next year, that's when you'll see me and Sally maybe in a motorhome.
Well, with the Detroit game, you go across the bridge.
Yep.
And you're about an hour and a half from Toronto.
Yep, I'm aware.
And you can catch those. And then I did this one time. I went Detroit to Toronto, and then I went to, of course, the Falls. Came back over through Buffalo, hit Cleveland.
Yep.
And then tollway back. So.
Yeah, I know that trek very well. Randy went to Utica College in Utica.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I know that Buffalo to Cleveland trek all too well. I can probably do it in my sleep.
So what do I know, right?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You got the same thinking patterns that we're thinking about. So let's get into it. We're going to cover Medicare. This is a series, folks, that we're actually going through. I'm going through the booklet called Medicare and You. And I said a couple weeks ago, this thing is put together, honestly, Sean, at best on a 1 to 10 scale, I'll give it maybe a 6. And I say that because while there's good information, you are constantly interrupted with go to this link or go to these pages to get more information about this or that. and it interrupts your. This is not like reading a book where you can't jump from page 15 and then jump to the last chapter and know what the heck you're reading. So it seems to me a constant interruption, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I could have done any better. God knows I'm on the radio because brevity is not my virtue. But and maybe there's a thought process behind it. I don't really care. I just know that as a reader who's got some knowledge in this space, that I kind of felt like it was not terribly put together with a great deal of organization. And then as I'm still going through it, I'm finding things that they're not including in some of the discussion. As an example, and we're not getting ahead of ourselves, but I'll just give you a for instance. So there's a common thought process that after age 70, you can't have a colonoscopy anymore if it's routine. Well, that's not totally true, but that's not far from the truth. If you're looking for a preventive colonoscopy, and they don't find anything, you can't have one under Medicare for 10 years, period, full stop. Now, if for some reason you run a fecal test because maybe you're throwing symptoms and then the fecal test shows some remnants of a problem, then there's no problem, but now it's diagnostic. No problem. All day, all night, twice on Sunday, you can get a colonoscopy. But at age 75, it's likely that unless it's diagnostic, you're probably not going to get a colonoscopy any longer. And that may be in your favor. Speaking for myself, that's had 4 of them already. The preparation part of the exam is terrible. As I like to say, just don't leave the house and be within feet of the bathroom. So maybe just plant yourself there and bring a book. So that's just as an example. We're going to cover that. But first, I want to cover the income-related monthly adjustment amount, which is the IRMMA tax that I keep forgetting. So this time, Sean, in my notes, I wrote it down. I may not remember it again, but it's called the income-related monthly adjustment amount, or the IRMMA tax. Now, I can tell you I've had a couple of fairly well-to-do clients have the IRMMA tax kick them right in the teeth. It's not that we don't not disclose it. We don't know what their taxes are. We just say, look, what did you do 2 years ago? And then you can go online and look up IRMMA tax or Part B premium schedule and what have you. Both of these clients who are smart, well-to-do, understand the moving parts, were blown away by how much it was going to cost them to have Part B per person. And I'll just give you and there's 3 different ways you can assess this. You either are filing single, you are filing joint, or you are filing married but separate. That's not going to go well for you folks. If you're doing filing separately, there better be a very good tax reason why you are filing married but separate. And I'll leave that to the accountants to make that decision. You and your accountant know better. But I'm here to tell you, if you go file and you're filing taxes married but separate, if you're making less than $103,000, you're going to be charged everybody else the same, $174.70. Between $103,000 and $397, Sean, your premiums are now going to be $559 a month, just for you. And anything over $397 is $594. So you get pushed right out off the cliff after $103,000, and you jump from $174 to $559 a month just to have Part B available to you. Now that's filing separate. Filing joint or filing single follow different wage base. So if you're less than 103, it's and you're single, it's $174.70. between 103 and 129. By the way, this is modified adjustment gross income, your Maggie. So modified adjusted gross income is what they're tagging, not your gross income, but your modified adjusted gross income is what they're tagging. And they're looking at your tax returns 2 years ago when you were doing well, maybe planning for retirement, maybe not, but it's a 2-year look back. And more than likely, you were still in the throes of your career and still making money and putting money away and all of that, all good stuff. And then you go, okay, Bill, it's time to retire. What do I do? And you tell them what to do and then check your taxes. And Sean, I'm telling you, it's a shocker when they actually hear what they're going to pay. So a single person making between 129 and 161, which in some places is a livable wage, I hate to say, is $349 a month. I'm rounding just to keep math simple. 161 to 193 is $279 a month. 193 to 500 is $384. And if it's over $500,000, bravo for you, but now you're paying $419 a month. If you're filing jointly, it's $206,000 as your modified adjusted income, and each of you will pay $174. 206 to 258, 244.60, 258 to 322,000, 349, 322,000 to 386, 454. That's almost $100 increase from going from 322 to 323. Now you think about this too, Sean, that you're getting ready to retire, so it's highly unlikely that your adjusted gross income is going to remain at that level. But you may have to be dealing with these kind of premiums for 2 years while you're in your first phase of retirement. And then finally, at 386 to 750, you're at 559, and anything over 750, you're 2 years ago, you're at 594 per person. So over $1,000 a month for Part B, if you did better than basically 386 or higher, you're paying that, and it's likely that you're not making that kind of income. And if you are, God love you. And you know what? No offense, but you shouldn't be complaining because you did well and you won the bet. You did well. It may not be fair, but the government has never sought to be fair when it comes to this kind of stuff, in my humble opinion. Now, that's the IRMMA tax, and it's a 2-year look back, so you've got to be paying attention. A couple other things just to keep in mind. When you're ready to apply for Medicare, and we covered this last week, I'm just going to cover some basics real quick. When you're ready to apply or retire and go to Medicare, it is the first of the month in which you turn 65 that you're first eligible. If you are going to continue to work and you work for a company with more than 20 employees, folks, you don't have to do anything. I don't care if Jesus Christ stands up in front of you and say, you're turning 65, you got to go on Medicare, otherwise there's a penalty. Just show him the cross and slap him upside the head. No, don't do that.
We're going to get letters.
I know. Sorry. Sean at whatever.
Studio at lakesradio.org.
There you go. So, yeah, I'm just making a joke, folks, to make the point. If you're working for a company with more than 20 employees, you don't have to sign up for Part A or Part B. Do not. But when you're ready to trigger it, it is the first of the month in which you turn 65 or the month in which you're going to go on to Medicare. I'm not talking about Social Security now. I'm talking about Medicare. But you have to call Social Security to engage Medicare. Part A is generally going to be free, if you've worked more than 40 quarters in a year. If you did not work more than 40 quarters in a year, let's say you made only 30 quarters in a year. I have these notes here, Sean. Greater than 30 but less than 40, you're going to pay $278 for Part A. So let's keep things in mind here. That IRMMA tax is still in play. Now, likely if you're working only 30 quarters, unless you got lucky with crypto or something of that ilk, or you figured out how to turn cattle futures into a gold mine for yourself, it's not likely that you're going to have to worry about this. But if you only work 30 quarters in a year, in a lifetime before you get to Medicare, you're going to pay $278 per month. And if you did less than 30 quarters of work experience, then your premium for Part A is $505. That's on top of the Part B. So you might be looking at well over $1,000 a month for a single person for Part A and B if you didn't work, for example. Part A is hospitals. Part A has a deductible of $1,632 for the first 60 days. Then between 61 and 90 days, it's $408 per day. And then you get into what's called lifetime reserve, which is 90 to 150 days. And Sean, I've had some clients be in the hospital for more than 6 months. So it does happen. Doesn't happen very often, because Medicare is going to look to kick you out at some point and put you in a skilled nursing facility or something. But it does happen. But if you're in that reserve space between 90 and 150 days, you're looking at $816 a day. That's just for Part A. Part B is healthcare providers, lab x-ray, outpatient services, surgeons, assistant surgeons, anesthesiologists, radiologists, the techs, the pathology that's not done in the hospital, physical, PT, OT, and speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, those kinds of things, durable medical equipment. Some home health care stuff is going to fall under Part B. Some is going to fall under Part A. We'll get to that in a bit. But Part B is a $240 deductible. And then unlike your typical employer plans, it's 80-20 forever. So if you decide, ladies and gentlemen, that you are okay with just Part A and Part B, honestly, you're exposing yourself to thousands and thousands of dollars of medical expenses. Because most medical plans, while you're working, have a calendar year cap that you can't spend more than $5,000 or $10,000 per person, and probably no more than $18,000 per family, let's say. In the Medicare world, it's 80-20 forever, and that's assuming you're seeing all the providers that accept Medicare. If your provider, I'm not worried about hospitals, but if your provider does not accept Medicare assignment, Medicare, your supplement, and your Medicare Advantage plans will not cover it. So now you're totally exposed to those expenses. So word to the wise, if you want to limit your risk, which is kind of insurance 101, Sean, and limit your risk on the things that you know you can't afford, buy Part A and Part B, and either get a supplement to cover the difference or get a Medicare Advantage if it suits you, so that you know that you're going to have a cap as to what's going to be your max out of pocket per calendar year. Now, I talked about the IRMMA tax for medical. I want to also bring up the fact that the IRMMA tax also applies to Part D, as in drugs. It does not apply to your supplement. It does not apply to your Medicare Advantage plan, but it does apply to the prescriptions. So I'm not going to go through the income brackets again, but I'm just going to give you a sense. If you're less than $103,000 or less than $206,000, it's not going. There's no IRMMA tax. Then the premiums go up this way. The next level, $12.90. The next level, $33.30. The next level, $53.80. The next level, $74.20. and the highest level, which is 500,000 or 750, modified adjusted gross income, is $81 a month. So if you bought a prescription program that had zero premium, and I want you to think about that for a second, zero premium. I'm digressing here a second, but how does the insurance company make money if they're not collecting any premium? Just saying. I've covered that before. You want to chime in on that one, Sean?
They're very benevolent and just want you to be happy.
Yeah, when pigs.
Yeah, I always wonder about that too, because a lot of times you'll see insurance and things covered, and they'll say, "No out-of-pocket expense to you."
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do they really mean? Or with no premium, and it's like, but you're gonna drive me to the doctor in a Ferrari, and you're gonna do all these wondrous things. How's this working, pal? So
yeah, the short answer is our tax dollars, folks, subsidizes the Medicare system. And in particular with Medicare Advantage plans, I'm not here to, throw fire on them. I'm not a big fan of them, but I'm not going to poo-poo them either. They're right for certain people. The plans that have no premium are those companies, Humana, Blue Cross, Cigna, Aetna, the main players that do Medicare Advantage plans are being subsidized to the tune of millions of dollars a year. And then the offload is, here's a bunch of money, insurance company, you guys manage the care. So what happens, and I only say this because I've been told this, because I don't sell it, I've not experienced it. Some tests are delayed, some tests are not authorized, and some are just not going to happen at all. In the Medicare supplement world, there's more of okay, you need this, you got diagnostic codes, you got procedure codes, good, done and done. Unless there's limits involved, like for PT, OT, and speech, for example, or mental health as an example, or chiropractic care, or acupuncture, which I'm going to get into some of the benefits here in a second. Unless there's limitations, Medicare pretty much rubber stamps everything. And if Medicare covers it, the supplement will just acquiesce and cover it straight away. They won't question it because Medicare has already approved it. The supplement just, as we say, supplements your plan. And whatever your deductible and out-of-pocket was before is generally covered up to the limits of whatever your Medicare supplement covered, whether you have a high deductible or the more standard plans. But the IRMMA tax is real. Again, it's a 2-year look back, and you want to pay attention to that, folks, because when you're ready to retire, one of the things, Sean, that I'm seeing almost on a regular basis now, and one of the things I ask my clients when they're getting ready is, how much do you need to live on in today's dollars on a monthly basis to maintain your lifestyle? That's just a broad number. And what's funny, Sean, is some people know and some people have no idea. And then once we start breaking that down and we go, okay, do you have a mortgage or rent? And what about utilities? And then you get to health care and they're like, oh, well, wait, that costs money? Well, yeah. Healthcare is not free. So you really have to pay attention. And then that's a moving target because these premiums, folks, go up every year for Part A. The deductibles go up for Part A. The premiums go up for Part B. These IRMMA tax schedules go up every year. And when you compound that with the fact that 12,000 people a day are turning 65, there's a ton of pressure being put on the trust fund that manages not only Medicare but Social Security as well. So with that in mind, Sean, any comments before we go to break?
I think I'm going to be working until I'm 80.
Yeah, you and
when
me both.
We talk about the trust fund.
Yeah, right?
So, no, nothing to add. Nothing productive anyway.
Yeah, all right. Well, with that in mind, that's Sean. I'm Bill. This is 101.5 FM WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. This is your Insurance Corner, and we'll be right back after these short messages.